Riding a bike takes a lot of skill, and so does riding Pillion. There are a few do's and don'ts when you're on the back of someone's bike, and these might not be immediately obvious, especially if you don't ride yourself. Here's how to be an awesome Pillion. The first is to consider who you're riding with. When you jump on the back of someone's bike, your life is literally in their hands. This really can't be understated. It's not something to be taken lightly, and you shouldn't ride with anyone you don't feel 100% comfortable with. A good rider will accept the responsibility they've taken on. They won't take the same risks that they might when they're on their own, since they have you to look after. They should also check in with you regularly to make sure you're still comfortable and happy. A good rider will talk to you before you ride with them for the first time, and they'll tell you how they want you to behave. If you don't trust your rider to look after you and to ride sensibly, then absolutely do not get on their bike and don't feel bad about that. Don't get on or off the bike until the rider's told you to. They're going to need some time to prepare themselves to take your weight, so don't get on and off until they've given you a signal. If you get on or off when they're not expecting you to, you could tip the bike over. It's usually a good idea for them to give you a thumbs up or some other kind of signal when they're ready for you. And speaking of signals, agree some kinds of signals beforehand. You're going to need a way to get in touch with your rider if you're feeling uncomfortable or if they want to check on you. This will usually be something like a tap on the shoulder or on the leg, but it's good to agree this beforehand so there's no confusion if you need to get their attention. If you're trying to communicate with your rider and it's something that you can't figure out just within a few seconds, they should pull over and speak to you and find out what it is that you need. It might be that you want them to slow down, or it might be that you want them to turn the heated seat on. Hold on with both hands. Where to hold on to will depend heavily on the bike. Some bikes will have grab rails for a passenger to hold on to, whereas some others will encourage you to sit close to the rider and hold on to them. Personally, I find holding on to the rider a little bit more comfortable, since you can use their body to stabilise yourself and stop yourself being thrown around so much. But some bikes will really encourage you to sit back and hold on to the grab rails instead, and that's fine too. Whichever you decide to do, just make sure you hold on with both hands and maybe even use your legs to stabilise yourself. Again, it just depends on the bike. Stay extremely still. This is really important. For those of us who have dropped bikes, it will be all too painful to remember how easy it is for a bike's weight to get away from you. And this might not be obvious if you don't ride yourself. Bikes are heavy and shuffling around on the back will make it very hard for the rider to control the bike, and this is especially true at low speeds. Things like coming to a stop or pulling up at traffic lights are especially difficult and dangerous with someone moving around on the back of the bike. Once a bike is upright and moving at a steady pace, you can shift your weight around a little, but do so in a steady and predictable way. Don't suddenly throw your weight around on the bike. If you're getting really uncomfortable, the best thing to do is to ask the rider to pull over so you can take a break. If the bike's at complete stop and the rider has their feet down, you can do little things like adjusting your feet on the pegs, but just be careful while the bike is stationary because it can be very easy to tip it over. Your best bet is usually to wait until the bike is completely upright and moving at a steady pace. Lean with the bike, but you don't have to overdo it. Your rider will probably tell you something like, lean when I lean, but often this is taken to the extreme by a well-meaning Pillion. It's more of a case of keeping your body in line with the rider. You don't have to lean all the way off the side of the bike. If you feel the bike leaning to the left or the right, just gently go with it. You don't need to exaggerate it, but just don't resist the lean either. There are a few things you can do if you keep sliding into the back of your rider or your helmet keeps banging on the back of their head. This is pretty common and it can be annoying and distracting for both of you after a while. It usually happens under harsh braking or on a steep downhill road. There are a few ways to stop yourself sliding forward on the bike. The first is to grab the rider with your legs to help stabilise your body. The second is just to hold on tighter to the rider or onto the grab rails. You can also try putting your palm on the rider's back and holding your weight up that way. You're not trying to push the rider forward or push yourself backwards when you do this, it's just to help stabilise your upper body a little bit. This should stop you from banging heads too, but if not, try grabbing onto the rider and putting your head off to one side of theirs, so it's almost like you're looking over their shoulder. But in some circumstances and on some bikes, it's just unavoidable, and if you're getting really uncomfortable from bumping heads so often, or if the rider's getting distracted, they should find somewhere to pull over and try something else to sort it out. Don't try to signal or make observations for the rider. You might be well-meaning, but the rider needs to do all of their own signalling and observations. It's not for you to try and indicate for them or tell them when it's safe to pull away. Mostly, to be a good Pillion, you should sit back, relax, don't move too much, and just enjoy being on the back of the bike. If you have any of your own tips for being a good Pillion, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. Safe riding, and I'll see you all in the next one.